Pistons Cavs Game 7. I got a big D. Maybe the Pistons shouldn't cut players for their personal views, and they wouldn't lose Game 7s. All right, so Game 7.
Mitchell, the handles. What a maneuver. Gets it inside, and Jarrett Allen rocks the rim.
Wow, Donovan Mitchell.
Mitchell, hard drive, loops it upstairs. Allen, the catch, release, and the...
Now, let me say this. The Cavs are built with such offensive firepower and a good big. Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, of course. Evan Mobley as their third scorer. Max Strus even can put the ball in the bucket when needed. Quintessential role player, really. And then we got Jarrett Allen, who's a good big, a really good, solid defensive big, can block shots, can play in the paint and get rebounds and do what he needs to do for the team. Their construction, and they're a trade deadline team, so they ended up the number 4 seed, but that's not necessarily too relevant, given the fact that they were comprised at the trade deadline. That just makes them a wild card team in the playoffs, because you never know. With these teams that have been together for a couple months, they can get hot at the right time, they can start building chemistry, or they could just be that nice. To be honest with you, they could just, in the Cavs case, I think that's the case. They're just nice, but they didn't have the team together the whole season, so they ended up the 4th seed. But in reality, they're probably better than that, right? On paper and on the court. Now, with Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, it's like they're taking turns, and that, I guess, works in some circumstances.
Shooting mid-range jumpers.
James Harden playing in his 187th career playoff game.
Great post adjust here by Jarrett Allen.
James Harden playing in his 100.
So this is, look, there are 3 spots in the post, okay? Different teams I've actually seen some different terms for this stuff that I've never seen before, some weird shit. We call this the front door, okay, where I'm from. We call that the front door. And this is the low post, the block, right? Block, block. So there's 3 spots in the low post. The block, the front door, okay? When you have a driver and your man who's guarding you on any of these positions starts to help, you relocate to another spot, one of these 3, and just depending on where the spacing's at. And he made the right decision going from the block to the front door. That's called a post adjustment, okay? You adjust the spacing, and the driving player is able to find you now that your man is committed to help on him. And then you get the ball in this advantageous position to try and score. Now, in this case, you got a freak athlete in Asar Thompson coming in from behind you to block that shit. Man, imagine if this team still had Jaden Ivey. Because he was a contributing player. He was not no, like, random, just on the team. Like, he was actually a good player. As a role player.
Allen didn't see him.
With the length of the Cavs.
Wade is in, so is Merrill, and Wade puts it in the basket from deep.
It's good to see Wade shoot the ball with confidence. And with Donovan Mitchell on the bench, they've got 3 good 3-point shooters on the floor around James Harden.
Yo, and Jalen Duren is tough, man. He's tough. Every single time I see him, he gives me something new that I haven't seen before. He surprises me.
Good 3-point shooters on the floor around James Harden.
And by the way, that's my type of player, though. Also, let me say that. A Jalen Duren, a guy who can be physical in the paint, guard, and his primary role is on the glass and defense as a big, and then now he's also able to score with his athleticism, and the bag work on the offensive end. That's really valuable. And I think that's the type of structure of player development track that I would like to take most of the players that come under me into. Weight room strong for sure, probably, and also on the court strong. The strength. Building strength is a lost art in basketball. People focus on skill work. If you talk to any players that got really good over a summer, most likely they'll tell you that they prioritize skill work. A lot of guys will say that. And even on this platform, a lot of guys will say that. That's true. That's what you got to do, right, to really get better at basketball. But I think that when you take away from the weight room is the foundation, right? You start in the weight room, you get your body right, and then you build the skills on top of that. There's the skill strength pyramid, right, that we work off of in sports performance, in movement. This is how it works. You got to build your physical capabilities first before you build the skill. Otherwise, the skill is built on a shaky foundation. And when you see a better athlete than you, they're just going to be able to eat you up, not let you get anything.
Powers his way in for the banker.
They haven't even been able to crack 48 points, so good start for Cleveland.
Step back Jay, Danis Jenkins. High in the air, tiptoe.
And early in the game, it's close.
Mitchell now defending him. Cunningham swings it corner.
And the
Thompson,
Cavs
they need it. They got
pulled off a little bit. Thompson's able to hit the threes. I haven't seen that from him.
a three.
We need to build that up though, because I've seen them leave you before, and we don't want to let them disrespect you like that. And we honestly cannot. It's tough to have you on the court in the modern day when you clog up the spacing. That's why with Cam Boozer, one of the things that I am critical of him about, and not critical of him necessarily, but just wary of, I would say, is his need to take up space in the paint to play his style of basketball. He needs to catch it low. He can catch it up top, but he's going to the rack primarily, right? And he's going to get in this area and work, footwork, pivot, stuff like that. That takes time, and that takes spacing. In this NBA, the majority of the remainder of the players, sometimes you got to think about how other players play, and unfortunately, in the modern day, that's the way it is, because you can't find other point guards and other guys who can play with a big like that. It just doesn't exist at this level anymore. Now everybody is basically a wing player that shoots threes, is able to shoot threes and attack off the dribble. So now if you have a bunch of wing players, that's the talent pool that can attack off the dribble and shoot threes, and you're playing in the paint, they can't really attack off the dribble. That takes away a big part of the game for a lot of these other players. So what's the value above replacement of having Cam Boozer, right? It may not be that high, because now you're going to his value on the court may be high individually, but it's going to diminish the value of the remaining players on the team. And that's why when I did that pre-draft workout video on Caleb Wilson, it was like, okay, Caleb Wilson might actually be the guy, despite having shown less effort in game film in his college career than Cam Boozer, despite having less production. That might be the guy in the big man conversation for this year's draft. For Asar Thompson, it's the same thing. If you can't shoot the three, that's another drain on spacing. That's a guy that's going to help off of you and be able to sit in the paint and take away the drive from other players. So you're diminishing what other players are doing. While you're productive, it's taken away from other players that you can't do this thing, right? So you got to be able to shoot. That's what that's in the modern day. It's just the way it is. You have to be able to shoot the ball.
Couldn't do it on Friday night. They get their second opportunity here in the Motor City. Mitchell, pump fake.
D. Mitch, tough, obviously. He's a tough bucket. I actually think he's the primary scorer, primary ball handler on this team, and James Harden is primary B. He's like the guy they go to when they just need a bucket. Like, it's just different. They have different roles. It's interesting, really. The way this team is constructed is very interesting, because they have two primary scorers and ball handlers, and they have a bunch of guys who are able to work off of them, actually. And that makes it so that there's enough ball. And then Evan Mobley, when he does get the ball, can score as well. Max Strus doesn't need the ball much at all. Really can play and contribute without the ball and still be effective and have a positive impact.
The banker goes.
Jared Allen, of course, being a traditional big.
Page with Mobley.
Well, Harden came in his 8 career game 7s.
And at this point, the game has gotten away from the Pistons.
Shooting only 35% from the floor and 20%.
And when you watch this team, this Cavs team, there's actually a lot of this 5-out style, right?
In his 8 career game 7s.
Pass and cut, relocate, replace.
Shooting only 35% from the floor and 20%.
And it works for them. It works for them. Especially when Jared Allen's out on the floor, it's a lot of that. When Jared Allen's on the floor, there's more pick and roll and stuff of that nature, but still somewhat spacey basketball. You're playing 5-out, you're driving, you're 45 rip cutting, you're post adjusting with Jared Allen. Like, you're playing off of that dribble drive. It's a dribble drive oriented style of basketball. That makes sense. You have guys that can beat the first defender. That's what you do, and you have a lot of it. A lot of times, conventional wisdom would say, you don't build a team that way. You don't build a team on just guys who are going to dribble drive and attack. You got to have a little bit more versatility. You got to have a little bit more positional variance, so you can have more, roles covered and not impeach on each other's roles, infringe, on each other's roles. But in this case, for the Cavs, man, it's working out. I mean, they may also be the beneficiary of some circumstance. The Pistons obviously having a roster shakeup a little bit, like nearly right before the playoffs. The East is not as strong as the West, of course, right now. So
not surprising.
Swing it out for the Sexer triple. It's good.
But even at the start of the game, he got off to Donovan Mitchell got it.
Man, Strus is like, he has such a role. And by the way, Thomas Bryant, shout out Thomas Bryant, went to college with him. We saw each other at like parties and shit. It's not like I hung out with him all the time, but that's my man's kind of. Cool dude for sure. Max Strus, right? And by the way, high energy player, Thomas Bryant. Would love to see him on the court more. He really, especially when he was in Indiana, man, he turned the stadium up. He was like a Draymond type of energetic influence on the team, on the stadium. So it'd be nice to see him get more active in the NBA. Now that being said, I want to say this about Max Strus. I've made multiple comments about him in these playoffs. But dog, he is like, he's so valuable. Like, he's like Con Knuppel, but Con Knuppel's obviously a different level, like a different strata. But as a role player, the way he's able to play his role, hit these threes, play defense, come back, maybe he can do stuff. He can attack the basket, and he can do a little something. Especially given the fact that he's not going to be keyed on or have additional help on him or a real focus on him. In that role, he's able to produce, and that is a role player, okay? And that's very important. First of all, he's a very good basketball player. If you saw him at the gym, you would think he was God. Like I've said before, if you saw him at Lifetime Fitness, if you saw him at Equinox, you would think he was God. All right, you would think that he was Amun-Ra himself, an Egyptian, a Greek something. He was a mythological creature, okay? But in the NBA, he plays his role. So that's very important. And shout out to him because he's been doing it for a long time. So respect. And I think it was when he was on the Heat that I really realized for the first time, wow, this dude can actually play. He's good. Somebody that's not very well known, not like an all-star or anything like that, but he's a hooper. But yeah, man. So the Cavs have a chance here, bro. Like they got a chance here against the Knicks. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. Okay, they gotta win on talent. I mean, they're a good team. They gotta, the Knicks are well oiled, so we'll see how that goes. All right, hey, peace and love. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.